Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy Moore, and this is the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast, a weekly podcast dedicated to sharing knowledge, ideas, and inspiration from those who are following their passion and living their purpose. I learned so much from my guests this season. It was just absolutely wonderful to visit with so many people who are passionate about what they're doing and feel like they're living their purpose. Building this podcast has been such a journey for me, and I am grateful to be with you guys. As I wrap up season 4, which is so hard to believe, I want to share a little bit about each part that made up season 4, and you can see what episodes that you might be interested in that you may possibly have missed, because all of these guests share great information. And so hopefully you're able to glean at least one thing, hopefully more, but at least one thing from each guest. So my roundup of season 4, and I've included this on my blog post. There are just easy links that you can click that will take you to my website, and then you can click on the podcast and listen to them from the sharingpassionandpurpose.com website. There are a couple of mini episodes in there that have to do with my theme of Make 2022 the Year of You. But otherwise, here are the following. So it started with episode 70, and that was just a welcome to season 4 where I shared my theme. Again, 71, I visited with Lisa Schatz, who started a nonprofit called Gaining Ground Literacy that is helping really hundreds of kids, probably thousands in the Tulsa area with their reading and helping them actually throughout the year in lower income areas here in Tulsa. Episode 75, I visited with Stephanie Harris, a registered and licensed dietitian, and she had a lot of great information to share about ourselves and then also kids when it comes to talking with kids about weight. And she has an interesting perspective about that. And then episode 73 was with John Fable. He wrote a book called Enjoy a Career with No Regrets. And he actually, interestingly enough, he's a retired entrepreneur. He wrote this book for his grandkids, and he's a friend of mine. And so when he shared the book with me, I actually had him come and speak to my class. My class went crazy, loved the book. And so he offers a link to a free download of his book for my podcast listeners. And so this link will include information about John. You can hear the podcast, but then you can download a copy of his book, Enjoy a Career with No Regrets, absolutely free of charge. So you should do that. Episode 74 is with my friend Adrienne Colwaite. I drove to Bartlesville. I interviewed her in her new place, and she is an entrepreneur who is putting family first. And so we talked about her success. She and her husband have built different businesses, including franchising a business, and now they're working on a business that is Palace Rooms and in Bartlesville, and so you've got to check that out. 75 is my top 2 tips for LinkedIn. That's one of my favorite social media platforms. It's a professional platform, but I share my top 2 tips. Episode 76 is with Mia Mascarin-Evan, and she works for her family's winery called 32 Winds and has an incredible heart for giving back to our community. And so we talk about the importance of giving back, as well as her role at her family's business, 32 Winds Winery, and the history that she has in that business. She talks about that on the podcast, and her dad starting the business later in life, actually a lot later in life, and she jumped right in and is working alongside him, and it's a pretty interesting and special story. So hopefully you listen to that, or if not, please check it out. Episode 76 with Mia Mascarin-Evan. Episode 77 is with Tia Baker on creating a superfood brownie business from scratch. And yes, pun intended, Tia is not a baker by trade. She's a teacher. So she talks about going and how she developed her recipe, how she tested it out, how she took time out of teaching. And now she's doing this full time. And so how she's building her business currently and the importance. She's found a niche. And so she talks about that niche that she is in and why she loves the brownie business. So check that out. 78, this was one of the Make 2022 the Year of You mini episodes on a bucket list. I share my trip where I hiked the Grand Canyon rim to rim with two of my cousins. And so it was an absolute treat to be with them and check this big thing off my bucket list. So I talk about that in 78 and why you should have a bucket list. 79, I interviewed Tina Parkhill. She is a friend of mine from college. She's very successful, a very savvy business entrepreneur and also philanthropist. And so we talk about her background and also her current business and also the importance of giving back. And so we talk about that. Episode 80 is with Kate Atkinson, and I titled it Kate Atkinson Embraces New Opportunities. But Kate Atkinson is a chef, and she went to culinary school at Le Cordon Bleu in Paris and has worked for some fabulous restaurateurs, but she was living in California and got a divorce and then moved back to Tulsa where she's from, and she's just hit this circuit by storm. But she worked for a famous person. Actually, she's working for a famous person now, but we talk about the famous person that she had an opportunity to work directly with in his home on the podcast. So you need to listen to episode 80 on that. But she also gives just a lot of great information. She has a great philosophy about life. And then we talked about downtime and the importance of self-care. And I need to be doing that more often, but I was so glad she touched on this because it's so vital. So check that out and how she handles and how she approaches self-care. Episode 81 was with Kelly Mize Hawley. She's a master fashion stylist for women. And I just love following her on social media. She has these little closet hangout sessions where she shares different tips and tricks with people in her private Facebook group. But she goes into people's closets and kind of helps transform their look. I don't know if I should say transform, but she helps women with dressing well and dressing for their body type. And she has all sorts of tricks for the importance of dressing for your body type and that kind of thing. So she shares some of that in the podcast, and you can hear her heart for helping women. It's also interesting because she's an entrepreneur, and she had a business here in Tulsa. And so she talks about going through and having that business for 10 years, but kind of changing her focus when she got married and kind of mourning the loss of that business. And so then she talks about, how she kind of decided to move on from there. And she's definitely doing well in what she's moved in to, but she really shares her heart in this episode. Episode 82 is with Lisa Mast, and I had so much fun meeting and visiting with Lisa. Lisa and I met through Laura Tremaine, who has started back her podcast. It's called 10 Things to Tell You, and it was one of my favorite podcasts, and she took a break from her podcast to write a book, and then she ended up writing another book. Her first book was Share Your Stuff, I'll Go First, and I interviewed her on the podcast and just loved the book. Love Laura Tremaine. And so anyway, we met at a Laura Tremaine event in Oklahoma City, and I connected with Lisa immediately. She is just a smart, savvy business professional, and she actually has a background that is different than the photo organizing business that she currently has. So check that out to learn a little about her background and then how she got into digital photo organizing. And also, if you need help with that, she has gift cards. She has different resources that she's offering because, you know, digital photo organizing, people just have so many photos. I admitted how many when I had her on the podcast, how many I had on my phone. And I mean, it's in the thousands and thousands. And she kind of let me off the hook and said, it's not that bad, but you guys, it's bad. So anyway, I need to have Lisa help me with my organizing. Okay, episode 83 was a short episode on gratitude. And this was during Thanksgiving. I shared a couple of products, and then I shared my process for making sure that I was every day doing something. And I don't know if I'm going to let you guys listen to the podcast, but I'm doing something every day to make sure that I have gratitude at the top of my mind. Episode 84 is with Jody McIntyre, who's the business manager at Circle Cinema. When Jody was younger, she took a leap and went out to LA and to follow her dreams. And I will let you listen to the episode to find out what happened. But she is so happy that she did it. And she is going to share her experience doing that as well as her life. Now, she's a lifelong Tulsan. And so she eventually came back and was a producer on a local television station for more than 18 years. But anyway, she talks about her path, her journey to Circle Cinema. So it's pretty cool. 85 wraps up this year's theme of Make 2022 the Year of You. And I also share a thought on comparison. And so if you'd like to listen to that roundup where I share all the episodes, that's a separate blog post, but that's episode 85. So along that same line, I am going into 2023 with a theme. And I have had so many people ask me about finding purpose, how to find your purpose, how to live your purpose. And so I decided to make my theme in 2023, live purposefully in 2023. So I'll be asking guests questions about what living purposefully means to them and how they achieve it. Also, why they feel like what they are doing contributes to their purpose. And so I will always have the focus on passion, but I want to have a little more focus than I've had on purpose. And so hopefully that will help you on your own journeys. So look for me on social media. Although I'm taking a break from the podcast, I will be on social media. I share kind of my family stuff, and then I'm going to have some different lives coming up over the holidays. And so those are going to be really fun. So look for the podcast to return for season 5 on Tuesday, January 17th. But until then, please join me on social media. I have in my blog post all of my handles, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, so you can do that. And then also I want to encourage you to please sign up to receive my emails through my website. I'm going to start a quarterly newsletter starting in January, and I'm going to give some behind the scenes information and share a little bit more about guests through this newsletter. So please sign up to receive those. I would really appreciate it. Okay, until then, please join me on social media. You guys, thanks again and happy holidays.